Before we dive into this nightmare, make sure you hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and drop a comment, because what you're about to hear isn't just a story. It's Chicago after dark, where every shadow could hide a bullet and every crowd hides a secret. The Loop was alive with holiday lights. Giant ornaments glistened atop Michigan Avenue, and the glow of the city reflected off wet pavement. Families laughed, couples strolled arm in arm, and the scent of roasted chestnuts drifted in the cold November air. But beneath the festive facade, something darker was stirring. At 9:50 p.m., the first shots shattered the holiday cheer. 7 teenagers scattered in panic, their screams echoing against the steel and glass of towering skyscrapers. Gunfire rattled the streets like a storm, and for a brief, terrifying moment, the city seemed to stop. Officers who had been stationed near the tree lighting sprinted toward the chaos, their radios crackling with fragmented reports. Teenagers were down, their bodies trembling, some screaming, others eerily silent. Blood pooled onto the pavement, mingling with the spilled hot cocoa from nearby vendors. Among the wounded was a 13-year-old boy clutching his side, the shock in his eyes betraying how quickly innocence had been stripped away. He couldn't comprehend why anyone would open fire in the middle of a crowd celebrating the season. Around him, parents screamed for their children, strangers shoved others to safety, and the city's festive spirit dissolved into panic. As paramedics worked frantically, investigators began piecing together the scene. The shooters had vanished, leaving only spent casings and unanswered questions. Who were they? Why here? And why target teenagers? There were no immediate leads, only fear and confusion. Then, barely 50 minutes later, a second eruption of gunfire tore through South Dearborn Street. This time, the consequences were deadly. 2 victims fell. One was a 14-year-old boy named Armani Floyd. He had been laughing with friends minutes before, unaware that his life was about to end. By the time police arrived, Armani was gone, lifeless on the cold pavement, a small pool of blood reflecting the Christmas lights above. The other victim, an 18-year-old man, was gravely wounded, but clinging to life. Detectives scanned the streets, desperate for witnesses, but the crowd had dispersed into the night, leaving only chaos and questions. Social media posts from that night revealed hashtags warning of teen takeovers downtown, but no one knew if those messages were connected to the shootings, or if they were a warning ignored too late. Inside the police command center, tension was palpable. Officers cross-referenced CCTV footage from dozens of cameras, but the Loop's maze of alleys and crowds made tracking suspects almost impossible. Every frame seemed to raise more questions than answers. Faces blurred, shadows moving like ghosts. Detectives whispered theories of gang retaliation, social media-fueled chaos, and an escalating pattern of violence that threatened the heart of Chicago. Then a break in the case. Something small, almost overlooked. A discarded backpack, hidden in the corner of an alley near the second shooting. Inside were personal items belonging to one of the teens shot earlier, but also a folded piece of paper with a cryptic message. "You weren't supposed to see this." The room went silent. Every detective stared at the note, understanding that this was no random act of violence. Someone had planned this. Someone wanted chaos. And worse, someone had left a message that could unravel everything, if only they could decode it in time. But when officers traced the note back to a locked apartment above a dimly lit pizzeria, what they found inside changed everything. The apartment above the pizzeria was dark, the kind of silence that presses against your chest and makes every step feel heavy. When detectives forced the door open, they expected a hideout or evidence stash. What they found instead was a room that whispered secrets of betrayal and obsession. Walls were covered in maps of the Loop, with pins marking streets, intersections, and gathering spots. Photographs of teenagers, faces frozen in mid-laugh or mid-step, were taped next to each pin. Notes in messy handwriting circled names, dates, and cryptic phrases. "Tonight decides everything. No witnesses left alive." Detectives realized they were looking at more than a random act of violence. Someone had been planning this for weeks, perhaps months. And the chilling part? Some of the names on the wall were already in the hospitals, or worse, on the pavement outside. Forensic teams scoured the apartment. They found receipts from gun purchases, discarded bullet casings, and traces of gunpowder that matched the weapons recovered from the street. Every piece of evidence screamed premeditation. Whoever had orchestrated the shootings had been meticulous, calculating every move, every escape route, every distraction. Meanwhile, the city was in shock. Parents whispered warnings, and teenagers shared frantic messages on social media, unsure who to trust or where to gather. News reports splashed headlines across screens: 1 dead, 8 injured in downtown Chicago. Authorities urged people to stay home, but the loop, with its glowing lights and festive chaos, seemed to mock their warnings. Back at headquarters, detectives combed through CCTV footage. That's when they noticed him. A shadowy figure slipping between crowds, moving with purpose, almost blending into the chaos of the holiday celebration. His jacket was dark, hood up, face mostly hidden. Yet there was something familiar in his gait, a calculated confidence that suggested he knew the city and the teens intimately. Detectives pulled up records and were stunned. The man in the footage wasn't just anyone. He had ties to multiple youth organizations, mentorship programs, and even some of the neighborhoods the victims had come from. Someone who was supposed to protect these kids might have been orchestrating their terror. Betrayal twisted in their stomachs. Could a trusted adult really be behind such chaos? As night turned into early morning, another break came. One of the teens who survived the first shooting called a detective, voice shaking. "I saw someone. This is someone I shouldn't have. He was with Armani before it happened. He left something in my locker. A warning." Officers rushed to the teen's locker. Inside was another note, this one more threatening than the first. "The loop isn't safe, and you won't be either if you talk." The implication was clear. The shooter, or shooters, were watching, controlling, and willing to strike again. The city wasn't just dealing with one attack. It was facing a predator who had meticulously mapped out chaos, who had insider knowledge, and who was daring law enforcement to catch him. Then came the twist that no one expected. Forensic analysts traced the handwriting on both notes. The chilling truth emerged. It matched one of the first victims. Armani Floyd, or someone close enough to him, had connections to the notes. The line between predator and victim blurred. Was Armani involved? Or had he stumbled onto something so dangerous that it cost him his life? Detectives looked at each other in stunned silence. The case had just exploded from random street violence into something far more sinister. Someone was manipulating the night, orchestrating fear, and leaving breadcrumbs that only heightened the tension. And then came the twist that no one expected. Forensic analysts traced the handwriting on both notes. The chilling truth emerged. It matched one of the first victims. Armani Floyd, or someone close enough to him, had connections to the notes. The line between predator and victim blurred. Was Armani involved? Or had he stumbled onto something so dangerous that it cost him his life? As night turned into early morning, another break came. The detectives had been running on adrenaline and fear for days. Every lead, every piece of evidence, and every witness pointed to a chilling conclusion. Someone close to the victims had been manipulating the night from the shadows. Armani's connections, the cryptic notes, and the shadowy figure seen in CCTV, it all suggested a twisted plan, executed with meticulous cruelty. The city felt smaller at night, the skyscrapers looming like silent witnesses. Police followed a lead to a derelict warehouse on the far edge of the loop. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the metallic tang of old machinery. The detectives' flashlights cut through darkness, illuminating walls smeared with graffiti and scattered debris. In the corner, a small desk held notebooks, phones, and a laptop.
all of which have been set up as if waiting for someone to uncover them. The laptop blinked awake. Screens were filled with maps, social media logs, and messages exchanged with teens, some of whom were victims that night. The handwriting on the notes was confirmed. It matched Armani's closest friend, a boy who had seemed loyal, innocent, and terrified in interviews with police. As detectives sifted through the files, they discovered something even more sinister. The friend hadn't just written the notes. He had orchestrated the first shooting as a warning, intended to scare rival teens away from the downtown area during the holiday celebrations. But the second shooting, the one that killed Armani, had gone horribly wrong. A gunman, someone the friend had unknowingly hired through an online forum, had executed the fatal shot. What started as intimidation spiraled into tragedy. The detectives realized the shocking truth. The mastermind had been a friend, someone Armani trusted, who had set in motion a chain of events he couldn't control. The betrayal cut deeper than any gunshot. Armani had been a victim, yes, but also a pawn in a larger, darker game. Then came the final twist. Among the files was a live feed from a street camera still transmitting. It showed the second shadowy figure from earlier, someone previously unseen, moving quietly along the loop. Detectives recognized him instantly, a local gang leader, long believed to be lying low, now resurfacing to clean up loose ends. This wasn't just a feud among teens, it was a collision of gangs, betrayal, and the chaos created by a misguided friendship. The detectives raced outside, sirens wailing, tracking the gang leader's movements through the loop's alleyways. But when they cornered him, near an abandoned subway entrance, he wasn't alone. In his hand was a phone, showing a live video feed of another teen, Armani's surviving friend, laughing as he watched police scramble. The true architect of the chaos had slipped through the cracks. He wasn't hiding, he was orchestrating from a distance, enjoying the panic he had set in motion. It was over for the shooters in the street, but the mastermind remained free. Chicago had survived the night, yet the city's heart was scarred. Families mourned, streets emptied, and the loop, normally dazzling in holiday lights, felt like a labyrinth of betrayal and shadows. Weeks later, another body was found in a quiet alley not far from the tree lighting. The signature was unmistakable. The same handwriting, the same pattern, the same chilling message of warning. Chicago's loop had survived one nightmare, but the real terror, the mastermind, was still out there, unseen, pulling strings. Proving that in this city, danger often wears the face of someone you trust. The city thought it was safe again, but beneath the glow of every streetlight, behind every reflection in a shop window, the loop still whispered a warning. Nothing and no one could be trusted.